Hey, you want to use some filters? Hey again everybody, welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk on Photography. I'm Adam Welch, and today we're going to be talking about neutral density filters. What they are, what they do, how they do it, what they can do for you. If you do any kind of landscape work or any kind of long exposure photography, you probably have some idea about what these little guys are. They're absolutely magnificent, and we're going to go over them in detail today. I actually had meant to make this video back during the total solar eclipse a few weeks ago when I was up at Cades Cove, but it didn't pan out. Mic check, 2, X4.
Beep.
What a day. I'm out here sweating my beard off, and you can hear a wedding literally going on about a spit shot over here to my right. Or the video, no, it's not gonna work. Did I say Adam Welch Photographist the first time and then straight down? I fucked up. And I will see you next time. Yoo-hoo. So, get ready for filtration. So, what are neutral density filters? The best way I know to put it, and how I usually do put it, is that they are sunglasses for your camera. Like everything else to do with photography, they vary in quality, they vary in how dark they are, the kind of glass, if it's even glass at all, or what the housing is made from. A lot of variables to consider here. They are not to be confused with polarizing filters, even though there are some polarizing filters that are at the same time neutral density filters. So keep that in mind when you're out shopping for these. What do? They block out a certain amount of light based on what their darkness rating is, the shade rating. This one in particular from Breakthrough Photography, it's one of their new X4s. It's a 6-stop. This is also from Breakthrough Photography. It is a 2-stop. I don't know if you can actually see the difference in the darkness there, but I'm going to show you more about that in just a second when we go outside. What they allow you to do is shoot longer exposures to impart a sense of motion in your pictures, whatever you need to do, under a lot brighter light than you otherwise might be able to do without the neutral density filter. Let me show you exactly what I mean. So we've moved outside here for just a second to show you what I mean about these neutral density filters and how they work. Right now this is being filmed in my backyard at 1/100th at f4 and ISO 400. As you can see, the sky, it's blurred out, the highlights, you can't see anything. The whole thing is really overexposed right now. But I take the X4 6-stop neutral density, put it right there, and you can see how that really cuts out literally 6 stops of light. And that's essentially how a neutral density filter works. Okay, now I've switched up lenses here to use the variable neutral density filter from K&F Concept. Just to show you what I mean by variable, right now we're shooting at 1/25th a second, f8, ISO 400. There again, you can see that the the sky is blown out. You really can't see a lot of detail because it is so overexposed. We're out here at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so the light is still pretty bright. So all I want to do, right now we would say this was maybe somewhere around the 2 to 3 stop range, if that, as far as the filter. But I'm gonna reach up and turn the outside bezel to darken it up. And you can see how it's beginning to get darker, and that's all the way blacked out, probably in the 8 stop range. Then if you keep going, it brightens right back up. And you can dial that in as much as you need with a variable neutral density filter. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much light these things can block out and what they do. Now that you've seen them in practice, let's take a look at a couple pictures shot using these neutral density filters. So most of those photos were shot when it was very bright out, way too bright to do a long exposure. Some of those had upwards of 15, 30-second exposures. And what the filters allowed us to do was to shoot a longer exposure time without completely blowing out the highlights, making it too bright in the final photograph. So, if you shoot a lot of landscapes, definitely look into getting you a quality neutral density filter. I'll post some links to these. I work with the guys at Breakthrough Photography. They still make some of the best filters on the market. And there again, I'll post the links on where to get them. You can get them from Amazon or directly through them. Now, let's talk about another kind of neutral density filter, and that is a variable neutral density filter. And that is this guy right here. This is actually a pretty nice budget neutral density filter. There again, it is variable. It's from K&F Concept. I think it goes for like 25 bucks, and there again, I'll post a link to that from Amazon. But the way neutral density filters work that are variable, and this is actually kind of cool. If you're familiar with circular polarizers, it's a polarizer where you can actually dial in how much polarization goes into the filter. This is made up from 2 pieces of glass. And if you can see on the video, you can turn the outside bezel. And what that does is literally lighten or darken the filter itself. This particular one goes from, I think it's 3 stop all the way to like 8 2/3 stop. So it's really wide range of darkness. There again, if you need a good cheap neutral density filter, this one works really well. It's around 25 bucks until you get up to that, you know, the 8 stop range, but anything from, you know, the 3 to 4 stop range, really well for the money. I highly suggest that one. Now, what are some things to look out for when you're shopping for a neutral density filter? The biggest thing, in my opinion, is color cast. You want something that is going to filter out the light, make it darker, let you do everything that you need to do with a neutral density filter. At the same time, not add any color. A lot of neutral density filters, especially the darker ones, they add a lot of blue tint. I've seen some adding some red, some purple, that kind of thing. So when you're looking for a filter, look for one with little to no color cast if you can find one. These, there again, from Breakthrough Photography, excellent, no color cast that I can see whatsoever. Now, another thing to look for is vignetting at the corners. Just like anything else, some of these will get darker, and usually that's an unavoidable problem with neutral density filters. The darker they go, the more vignetting you can see at the corners. Some are good, some are not so good. With most everything, unfortunately, you do get what you pay for most of the time with neutral density filters. Another thing, you know, this is actually probably just as important as color cast, the actual grade of the glass. The grade of the glass has a lot to do with the final sharpness, because this is on the outside of your lens. The sharper the neutral density filter, the overall sharper your final image will be. And the last thing to look for, of course, is build quality. What's the housing of this made of? The bezel, is it aluminum? Is it brass? Brass is by its very metallic nature, non-galling. That means if you're stacking filters, you're less likely to get it, you know, kind of in a bind and not be able to get them unstuck. Look for something that's sturdy, you know, that you can get a good grip on. And I say again, be sure you get the right size filter. Double check, triple check. I'm telling you, it's going to save you a lot of headache in the long run if you know for sure what millimeter size your filter should be. Okay, so what have we learned about neutral density filters? 1, sunglasses for the camera. 2, it lets you shoot in brighter light with longer exposures. 3, why do you need to do that? Sometimes you want to take a certain long exposure picture to give a motion effect, you know, clouds moving towards you, or, you know, some bad weather coming in, that kind of thing, water moving to give that nice silky effect to the water. Neutral density filters allow you to do that. They actually come in all shapes and sizes. They make square filters. You saw the round ones from Breakthrough and from K&F. Literally any thing that you could picture, any millimeter size. Those are 77 millimeters, and one of them's a 58 millimeter. Check on the back of your lens cap. That usually has the filter size for you, or around the perimeter of your lens. It'll tell you what filter you need and what size. Well, and lens cap too, that you need for your particular lens. And they also make some step up, step down filter adapters that they're generally cheap, that you can use to make a larger filter fit on a smaller lens. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Straight Talk on Photography, talking about neutral density filters. Again, check out the links in the description for everything that you saw here. And you know, if you liked the video, if you learned anything, please do me a huge solid and hit that subscribe button at the bottom. I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, this has been Adam Welch for Straight Talk on Photography, and I will see you next time.